What problem is overlooked in apocalyptic movies that could kill you? Everyone with a major health issue, if they survived the apocalyptic start, they won't see the finish. Take me for instance, I'm a transplant patient, kidney transplant. Without meds I would be dead within 3 to 5 days due to a massive infection. Same with diabetics not having insulin, asthmatics not having inhalers, and other kind of disease and genetic issues. Snoring, 100%. I think about this all the time. Anyone who snores after the zombies come must be exiled. But most will die quickly. Someone replied, so yes, this is a thing. My nana's brothers, my great-great-uncles, all fought in World War II, one of them was paired up with another soldier in a foxhole and alternating sleep shifts. His partner snored so bad he was sure this guy was going to give their location away. He said he hated to do it but he reported him in the morning and by the next evening he was gone. No word on where he went but it was understood they couldn't have that kind of liability. I feel like Stephen King addressed this a bit in the expanded version of The Stand. People who survived the plague but managed to die because of an infection or getting too drunk and falling into the pool. I think it would be the little, random things that might be cause for an emergency room visit currently, but could turn potentially deadly very quickly. I've only read one post-apocalypse series where the author addressed pests. In the series most of the world dies from a plague, so there are millions of dead bodies everywhere, which leads to rats and ants experiencing a catastrophic population boom. They watch a group go to enter a house, only for a tidal wave of rats to flood out and overwhelm them as they try to run away. They need medical supplies, so they go to the hospital and have to wear basically spacesuits because of the trillions of ants that are in there cleaning up the piles of dead bodies. For those asking, the series is called Viral Misery by Thomas Watson. As someone who had a severe hemorrhage, appendicitis, a severe infection and an emergency wisdom tooth extraction in the last 11 months alone, I'd be dead within days. Edit, I also caught the virus whilst in the hospital and ended up admitted to the virus ward. This one particularly stung as it meant absolutely zero visitors and I'd just had a baby that I was still breastfeeding and I couldn't get to her for a week. She was a trooper though, as was Daddy. I guess the giving birth would have been the thing that got me in this scenario. As bad as the show Revolution's overall plotting and pacing was, they generally did a good job of thinking about these kinds of little inconsistencies. There's a minor character who was a doomsday prepper before the apocalypse, but he didn't stock up enough on antibiotics. As a result, his daughter died of tetanus that he was unable to treat. A warlord kidnaps prisoners for blood because his wife has diabetes and needs constant transfusions of blood with sufficient insulin in it to survive. There's a doctor who keeps a collection of moldy fruit to harvest penicillium mold from it and make penicillin. Some characters try to go into an old subway tunnel, but nearly die because of lack of sufficient airflow down there without modern HVAC systems. I always see post-apocalypses media showing people going into cities to scavenge for supplies, but honestly cities are the places you want to avoid at all costs due to the bodies. There is a reason why we bury dead bodies, why every culture has a tradition of getting rid of bodies. They are a vessel for disease, smell, animals get to them, any body left out too long is going to be harder and harder to dispose. Cities would be full of these. What's worse is shows usually show survivors winding up finding a body and go, oh that's too bad. No, you'd smell that sucker in an unventilated, humid house which the cadaver has been sitting for God knows how long. You wouldn't be able to survive in most houses with a body like that bloating the area. Not to even mention the absolute psychological damage seeing a body like that would do to people. Most would think they could be tough and push through that, but the only corpses we see on the regular are beautified up. These will be long dead denizens who have been rotting for a time. Multiply that throughout the city and scavenging inside city limits becomes a midfield of smell and disease and psychological trauma. Natural disasters. You'd have no clue if a hurricane, flash flood, typhoon, monsoon, or other events were coming. Someone replied, I used to live in Florida. There is a very obvious change in the overall atmosphere when a hurricane is incoming. For about a day ahead, the climate becomes suspiciously comfortable. No sun, cool air, very little humidity. A few hours before landfall, the ocean starts to push its way inland, even up into the rivers. I also lived in Missouri for about a year, and the signs of tornado weather are pretty easy to spot as well. Everything just feels and looks wrong. The sky is an obscene shade of green, the drop in air pressure is so sudden that you can feel it with your skin. You know the actual tornado is coming because it goes from windy to slack air. Even if you'd never heard of a tornado in your life, you'd know that something terrible was about to happen. I knew a guy who lived in Arizona, and I had thought about living there one time, and so I asked him a lot of questions. It's just taken for granted that you get the hell away from a riverbed when the rain starts really dropping. Lack of dental care. A dental infection can take you out right quick. And without treatment that hurts. Someone replied, my parents did not believe in preventive dental care when I was growing up. Their policy was repairs are temporary, pull the problem tooth. As a result, I am down 5 or 6 teeth that probably could have been saved. And the rest are a hot mess that will cost me tens of thousands to fix. I can distinctly remember several occasions in which my teeth became infected, and let me be the first to tell you folks, I would have eaten a bullet if that option had been available to me. It was some of the worst pain I have ever experienced. I could feel the infection spreading from my jaw outward, or at least imagined I could. Without antibiotics, I legitimately believe one of those infections could have been the end of me. They are no joke. I don't know how this hasn't been mentioned yet, but it's common sense that is almost always overlooked in movies and TV. Humans are way more physically fragile and squishy than you might think. Based on John McClane and other invincible action heroes, who take damage and do things that would break or catastrophically cripple a normal person, movies are a poor source of information for deciding what to do and what could happen to your body, should you somehow falsely think you're the main protagonist of an apocalypse movie. Indoor firefight without hearing protection? You're probably deaf now. Jumping off a building to catch a wire? Kiss your fingers and lower extremities goodbye, assuming you land on your feet. Taking a beer bottle to the head? That's probably a concussion. Movies have made us think we're a lot more durable than we really are. Last Man on Earth tackles this in a few episodes. Hilarious and ridiculous show BTW. Guy dies from a burst appendix, gasoline goes bad after couple of years, all the nuclear fallout from reactors not being managed, one girl almost died because she got stuck in an elevator and no one could hear her. Also, the depression from lack of human contact. I think the most depressing movie ever, The Road, did an excellent job with a more realistic version of an apocalyptic situation. Movies usually don't get to me, but that one did, and I can't watch it twice. The overwhelming bleakness of it combined with the realness of it depressed me. Dogs. We hardly ever see packs of dogs roaming around on these shows, but it's very possible. You could have feral packs running around competing with humans for food. Also, pests, vermin, parasites, mold, plant overgrowth. We let our garden run wild for a couple of months and plants have invaded several areas. In an apocalypse it would get much worse. Might not kill you, but it could be a real nuisance. Thank you for listening to Campfire TTS. Please like, comment, and subscribe.